Today we're going to look at the Tarocco Bolognese, the tarot deck from the city of Bologna in Italy, which is used for local tarot games or Tarocchino games, the most famous of which is called Ottocento, which I'll explain how to play in a future video. So my deck here is made by Dal Negro, one of the big Italian card producers, and in this deck, being an Italian deck, we have the Italian suits of coins, clubs, swords, and cups. So starting with the suit of coins, here is the ace, which is monochrome and has a circle in the middle, which used to be for the tax stamp back when all decks of playing cards in Italy were taxed. And here we have the jack, the knight, the queen, and the king of coins. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell the cards apart in this deck because none of them at all are labelled, and only a small number of the trumps are even numbered. So you have to get used to knowing what the different cards look like if you want to play any of the Bolognese games. These are the pip cards in the suit of coins: the 6, the 7, the 8, and the 9, and the 10. And as I said, they're not numbered. You just need to recognize the arrangement of the pips on there. The players get used to these very quickly. Now, one thing to remember is that in most traditional tarot games, including this one, the two round suits of coins and cups, the pip suits are numbered backwards. So ace is highest, 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, then 10 is the lowest. Now onto the suit of swords. This is the ace of swords. The picture, if you're wondering what that is actually the circle is actually the hilt of the sword. And when these cards at some point in history became reversible, double-headed, the blade sort of disappeared into the middle of the ace of swords. Then we have the jack, we have the knight of swords, we have the queen of swords, and we have the king of swords. The queen and the king are a little bit tricky to tell apart. The queen looks a little more feminine. The king has his head tilted to the side, but those are another two that beginners to this deck sometimes find hard to differentiate between. Then the pip cards in the suit of swords. The swords are curved, which makes them easy to tell apart from the clubs, which are straight. And so here we have the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now the straight suits, so the long suits rather, swords and clubs, run in the expected direction. So ace is lowest and 10 is highest in those suits. You'll notice that all of these suits don't have any pip cards 2, 3, 4, or 5. This deck is a shortened deck, which happened many centuries ago. This particular deck has been like this for a long time, and for that reason it's often nicknamed Tarocchino, meaning little Tarocco in Italian. Now onto the suit of clubs. There's the ace of clubs, the jack, the knight, the queen, who is looking off to one side, and then the king of clubs, who, a bit like the king of swords, has his head tilted to one side. And then the pip cards in clubs, or batons, whatever you want to call them. There's the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, and the 10. You tell them apart from the swords in that the clubs or the batons are straight, whereas the swords are curved. Then onto the suit of cups. This is the ace of cups. Then we have the jack, the knight, the queen, and the king. So basically, if you're trying to tell them apart, the jack is always the one who has neither a crown nor a horse. The knight's the one with a horse. The queen and king can sometimes be a little tricky to tell apart if you aren't used to it. But you can work it out. The king, 2 of them have facial hair. The other 2, the king's the one with his head to one side. These are the pip cards in cups. There's the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, and the 10. Let me just move them across so you can actually see the 10 of cups properly. Now that you've seen the 4 plain suits, we have the trumps. And the first trump, well, maybe he's not even a trump in this game, and I'll explain later why I say that, is il matto, the fool. Then we have basically trump 0, who is the begato in Bolognese dialect, or bagatto in standard Italian. If you're familiar with divination decks, the Begato is the one that in, for example, the Rider-Waite is called the Magician. And then after the Magician, traditionally you had 4 cards, which was an Emperor, an Empress, and a Pope, and a Papess. In this deck, they are replaced with 4 Moors. Now, these 4 Moors, or the Moretti in Italian, basically are equal in value. They don't have any particular rank. 2 of them are identical. And when you play Bolognese games with them, generally, it's just the order that they're played to the trick which determines who wins, but they're of equal value. The next trumps look similar to what you might be expecting from a divination deck or something like that. You have number 5 is l'amore, love. Il carro, or the chariot, is 6. Tempra, temperance, is 7. And giusta, or justice, is number 8. Then, number 9 is strength, or forza. 10 is the wheel, roda, or the wheel of fortune in other decks. Number 11 they call il vecchio, which just means the old man, rather than the hermit. And number 12 is the traitor, traditore, who is often called the hanged man in other decks. Besides the Italian names that I'm using, all of these cards also have names in Bolognese, in the dialect or language that is spoken in Bologna. However, I don't speak that, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it and offend anyone, so I'll just stick to the Italian names. Then we have La Morte, which is death. Number 14 is Il Diavolo, the devil. Number 15, they usually call it La Saetta, which means the lightning. You can also call it La Torre, which is the tower, but often they'll call it the lightning, as happens in a lot of other decks. And then 16 is La Stella, the star, with what looks like the 3 wise men underneath following the star. I'm not sure, I should look that up. We then have the 4 highest trumps, which are not numbered, and number 17, although it's not labelled 17, is La Luna, the moon. Then 18, Il Sole, the sun. And then Il Mondo, the world, is 19, and L'Angelo, the angel, you might know it as judgment, for example, in a divination deck, is the highest one. This is an important note. In Bolognese games and also in Piemontese games a lot of the time, the highest trump is not the world, it's the judgment, it's the angel, l'angelo. Del Negro also include, as a bit of a bonus, 2 jokers, which you don't need for any Bolognese Tarocco games, but you've got a red joker and a black joker, and then you've also got the Del Negro company card there on the left, and also a rule book with the rules for various Bolognese games, Ottocento and others that I might describe on the channel later on. Definitely I will get to Ottocento, but I'd love to learn some of the other ones here once my Italian gets a bit better and I can actually read the rule book without my brain melting. Now for a little bit of a bonus, I'll lay out the 4 aces side by side so you can have another look. And I wanted to talk a tiny bit about the history of the deck. This is a very old deck. It's been used for gameplay in Bologna since at least the 15th century, and at some point it became double-headed, but other than that there are sheets of basically this tarot deck from centuries and centuries ago. Now, it's also one of the oldest deck, possibly the oldest deck, according to researchers such as Michael Dummett and also some Italian researchers, to be used for divination. And if you get on YouTube, there are some other videos where you can actually see little old ladies from Bologna teaching you how they do divination with the Tarocco Bolognese. I might see if I can find a link and include that in the show notes for this as well. In the meantime, that's all from me for today. Thanks for watching.